WeRiseNation.com.
This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear. If you seek it, you will find what you looking for. And once you hear us, it'll leave you looking for some more. Open the door, let us in, we got a special vibe. Now close the door, lock us in, and enjoy the ride. We about to talk about some things that make a lot of sense. And what we talking about, here sometimes will get intense. That's what we looking for, trying to spark a conversation. Join us live or you can listen on the We Rise Nation. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So welcome back to another edition of the Grown Men Podcast. I am your host, BAN, and welcome back to the show. As always, we got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things coming up this week. And joining me right now, of course, remotely, is my brother, the Mark. Mark, it's good to have you back on the Grown Men Podcast. How's everything going?
Everything is going good. Good to be back at it again. No doubt.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. And a lot of things been going on, Mark, this week that we just got to talk about here on the Grown Man Podcast. But what I want to start out with is why so much outrage? That's right. Outrage about everything that's going on in society right now, as if these things haven't been happening since civilization began. But right off the top, we want to start with Congressman Eric Swalwell out of California, resigning from Congress, also stepping out of the governor's race because of allegedly, some things he was doing. Of course, he's a married man. He has a family. So allegedly, he's been accused of, emotionally, maybe sexually, abusing women, so to speak, in that manner. What do you got to say about this, Mark? And what have you heard? Because we read a lot of different things. I know you have and I have. But what's your take on it?
Well, from details that has come out, there's at least maybe 3 or 4 women who used to work on his staff, because he's been a congressman, well, I want to say like at least about 10 years or so. I remember him,
right.
He ran for president before, and
right.
2020 he was part of that crowded field of potentials.
Yeah.
But it's been like about four staff women that came out who used to work with him, that said that they have hung out with him a couple times. They get to a bar and they somehow became very intoxicated. I know one woman in particular said that she got drunk with him at a bar, kind of blacked out. Next thing you know, she wakes up naked in his hotel room, in his bed and all that kind of stuff, and didn't realize what happened. She went to her mom, and then they went to the doctor and all that to make sure that she didn't have any kind of STDs and things of that nature. So I mean, again, like you said, these are allegations. We know that there is an investigation in California that's going on right now. So they are investigating these allegations and to see what comes from that. And it's it's one of these things where when you're in the political spotlight, if you're a celebrity or a sports athlete, anything like that, right? I mean, it's always gonna open the door, for you to be scrutinized when things kind of go down that most of society, deem a foul. I mean, and I'm not trying to like downplay any of this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look at it as a bad look, a bad situation that could have been avoidable.
Yeah.
It's like, what I'm saying, us as grown men, I mean, like, yeah, we have like, needs and desires and all that kind of stuff, but like you also have to have discipline and responsibility and, and when it comes to like, people that like, work for former Congressman Swarwell, these are his, subordinates, like people that's like underneath him. So there's that whole power dynamic. And that's like the biggest piece that like a lot of people are like, uncomfortable with. I mean, it's like you're taking advantage. And this been a story like, from the beginning of time, basically a boss taking advantage of his secretary or taking advantage of, somebody who he employs in some kind of way. So, I mean, it's a bad look. It's a bad situation as far as the outrage in the general public is like, as this is like, unbecoming of an American or unbecoming of somebody like this stuff happens every day in society. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but people tend to take advantage of people. I mean, depending on what kind of level you are in life, I guess. I mean, if you're a politician, then yes, this is a very bad look. But if you just a guy, like, what I'm saying, working in a warehouse and you take advantage of a girl that's a couple years, like, younger than you, that's kind of like the same deal. If you like seeking out just to like, have, your needs met in all kind of ways. I mean, it's just, it's a thing to, what I'm saying, like, think about with that whole power dynamic.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where Eric Swalwell, to me, he was one of those up and coming guys. And like I said, I like the things that he was saying, especially when he was hitting Felon 47. Because anybody that hits Felon 47, I tend to, have, a good thoughts about. But they also have issues and problems too. So I'm not going to sit here and say, look, I can forgive anything that he did. If he did what he did to those women, he's got to be held accountable. But as we know, and as me and you have talked about here on the Grown Men podcast, there was no shortage of outrage on the Democratic side. As we always say, unlike the Republicans, they were quick to throw Swalwell right under that bus. And I mean, his long-standing colleagues and friends and the people at the top, like the Nancy Pelosi's and the Adam Schiffs and Representative Gallegos, they all were quick to out him very fast and separate themselves from him, so to speak. Unlike the Republican Party with Gonzalez from down there in Texas, I mean, the young woman he was involved with actually committed suicide. And yet still, the Republicans wanted to do nothing about it because they didn't want to lose a seat. That's how in society we view politics. As opposed to it being for the people, it's for the people who work in the party. They're trying to hang on to their cinchy jobs.
Well, Mike Johnson said that I remember him saying about that whole thing is that he still didn't know about it. He was like, no, unfamiliar with. I mean, this thing about these like Republicans and MAGA and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I mean, you are absolutely correct. It's all about holding on to power, and they're a bunch of hypocrites all day long. But the thing I had with the Democrats too, like, yeah, they are quick to react and throw people underneath the bus, but it's like with this whole like Eric Swalwell situation, from what I was hearing and reading about it, things like that, like this was a poorly kept secret. Like, there was people that was in the know, or at least had room to like, what I'm saying, like, speculate about this, that, and the other. So when I hear about like, Pelosi and a number of those guys coming out now and like trying to distance themselves, that seemed just as hypocritical to me, because I would like question, like, what did you know and when did you know it? Like, what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
It's like kind of easy to come out now after like it's all public and out there, and like he had to jump out of suspend his gubernatorial race in California, and now this week he had to like step down from pressure from the media and everything else, because they were putting together papers to like have him like kicked out of Congress and all that. So now that all that pressure, like he had to step down. Now you want to come and say like, oh, he did this bad thing, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like we talk about with the whole like R. Kelly situation, the P. Diddy, or like anybody, like they had people around them. It's not like this was like a complete total secret. I mean, even with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff that's happening right now with like Felon 47 right now, people know that he's all over those files. And you still, not doing anything about it. And there's like not just Felon 47, but a lot of these rich and powerful white men, who's getting away with all this atrocity, like, doing harm to, like, mind you, we supposed to care about the kids, right? Like the Republicans talk about that all the time, and they're against abortion because you're killing God's babies and stuff like that, but you're letting God's kids be molested and taken advantage of and all that kind of stuff by not wanting to get to the bottom of this whole Epstein situation. So it's with this outrage, like, oh, pearl clutching and stuff. Like, no, don't do that after the fact. You need to step up and say something before the fact. And like you said, like, Swarwell, I think as far as from what I know, because he's not my congressman, but I have, like, seen some of the clips and things he said during those congressional hearings, and how he came after Felon 47, and how he came after like a number of them, Pam, Bundy, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he's very articulate, talented individual. I think for like a lot of people, it's a shock because like people consider him a very like good-looking individual and somebody that's very smart, highly educated, which he is. He's a smart guy,
right?
Which is like mind-boggling when we see so many of these smart people that know better, and just going off the history of American politics in the last 20, 30, 40 years. You can take it back way back when. Like, you should know better than to engage in anything that might come out. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna say like go the whole Mike Pence route or whatever. Is like, as far as like not talking to a woman without having your wife present, and that type of stuff. But I mean, you got to be a little bit better prepared, than this here, because it's just a mess.
Yeah, it's one of those situations that I'm quite sure we're going to hear more about, and we will cover it here on the Grown Men Podcast. My last thoughts on it is, as you alluded to earlier, it's all about self-control, Mark. And for a lot of us, and myself included in my personal things in my life, at times, self-control for different issues. We've all been there. And I'm not talking about, where you having extramarital affairs or anything of that nature, but just having self-control, self-discipline, and looking at the bigger picture. And I hate to see a guy like Swarwell go down, because I thought that he could have been a guy that could be like the new wave of the Democratic Party, that's going to actually speak loud and then do something. But if he did this and he done these things to these young women, then he has to answer for that as well. But it's one of those, it's one of those situations we'll continue to cover on the Grown Men Podcast, because it is an important issue. But Mark, I know it was something you wanted to bring to the table, where we talked about, and we've talked about before offline, and that is this drive-through rage and these things that are happening all across the country, as there are many stories, about people getting mad at these drive-throughs. So what do you have to say about it?
Well, the most recent story that I noticed that came out was this was at a Steak and Shake restaurant out in St. Louis County, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
This happened April 8th of this year.
Okay.
Where two co-workers were shot, one male, one female. The woman was killed. She was 32 years old, only 32 years old, and she was shot to death. The male co-worker, his name is not disclosed from what stories I was reading, but he's okay. He's gonna be all right. And the like alleged shooter is still at large. I believe this to be a man. a black man.
Okay.
And so again, like you had a drive through. You know, this was like late at night. I don't recall what time. I'm quite sure it was probably like one of those like after hours, probably like after midnight, whatever. You know, you want to pick up some food,
Right.
and it was a certain kind of dispute about their order. The guy was unhappy, and then it went back and forth, like getting into a like argument or like some kind of altercation with these coworkers, and then that led to him pulling out a gun and shooting at them. It's like why? It's like my thing is why do it has to come to that?
Right.
Why does someone has to be shot at, attempted to do, well, not even shot at, attempting to do harm because there was also a incident that my daughter was showing me. This was like a few months ago. This was out in New Jersey. This at a Wendy's drive-through when like it was a female customer. It was like a car like full of females, I think. Well, I don't want to say full of, maybe about two or three people in the car. They go to Wendy's, get their food, and like they was complaining because they got the wrong dipping sauce or whatever. Maybe they wanted sweet and sour instead of barbecue, whatever the case was. So they get mad. They get into it with the coworkers there. And then one of the women gets out the car, jumps through the window, and start like snatching things, sauces and all that kind of stuff, carrying on like that. The co-workers that worked at the place, they started to like retaliate by like tossing drinks and sandwiches and all kind of stuff, making a whole big mess. And these stories are like out there. I'm quite sure like a lot of people who's listening is like familiar with this stuff. But again, why do we got to go through all that? Why why are we as a community, and not just black people, because we know like everybody have this whole drive-through rage where it's like you're getting upset because you got the wrong order, or you're getting upset because the person at the drive-through window doesn't speak clear English.
Right.
I done seen people like get all mad and stuff because they got a Mexican up there working. Oh, he or she don't like understand what a fountain drink is, and like stupid stuff like that. Like, do you gotta be doing all of that? Is my question. Is like, what's causing all this? Why are you raging out at a drive-through? Maybe, perhaps, you should save a few dollars and go home and make yourself a sandwich and sit down somewhere. Like I mean, this is like beyond ridiculous. I think it's bad for the community as a whole, where there's a white community, black community, like, human community. Is like, why are we getting all this rage and violence at a drive-through? And then now, as we talked about before, like on this program, how like they're bringing in all these AI compatible machinery to like eliminate jobs. And around my area, they do have an AI drive-through where it's like you're talking to AI when you're placing your order. They still trying to work out the kinks on that, but this is a good argument to make why you don't need human bodies taking orders at a drive-through if it's going to result in violence and possible death. Nobody should have to die going to work or working at their job or going to a drive-through to get a damn McDonald's or anything, a sandwich or food.
Yeah, Mark, it's one of those. It's one
What's
of those
causing all this?
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I continue to see this happen all the time because it happened recently around here where the kids went and jumped over the counter, but it wasn't like for order or anything. They were just doing it because right now that's the vibe. That's what's going on in communities across this country. People do anything at any time. I've said this before. That's why I say, what's all the outrage? It's happening all the time. The problem is a lot of us are very angry and we don't know how to control ourselves. Once again, there is no self-discipline. That's why these things keep happening. It's the same case. I saw one in California where they was in the In-N-Out and they got mad because they didn't get what they wanted to get. And they end up trying to jump over there and shoot at the people. And it became a whole big thing. The employees have to be better, and so do the customers. They both have to exhibit better behavior. they're both at fault for that, because when you escalate it, that kind of thing happen. Like, I believe it was about a month ago where I had an issue at the drive-thru. I ordered my food online, and then, as I had been doing previously, I go to pick it up, I give them my name, and the young lady says, "Oh, we don't have your order." So I'm like, "Yeah, but I did call in the order, and it's right here, and I'm showing you on my phone that I called it." "Oh, we don't have your order." So yeah, she got snippy with me, and I snapped back. But then the other young guy, he came over there, and me and him had a conversation, and he was like, "Sir, I will bring your food to you." And I was like, "Fine." I didn't get out of the car. I didn't throw anything. Yes, my voice got loud because that young lady, I felt, disrespected me. And that's one thing that I don't tolerate from anybody. But I never got to the point, Mark, where I was going to get into a physical confrontation. That was never on my mind. But nowadays, it's going on all the time.
Well, you pretty much hit it right there, man. It's like we gotta like recognize and understand our like anger issues. I mean, these are things that we got inside of ourselves for like whatever reason, and it could be something that could have built up over time. You know, something bad happened to you yesterday, you lost your job or something like that, or whatever, your girlfriend or your boyfriend broke up with you, whatever the case. You still mad about that, then you up there taking that anger out on everybody else. And like, yeah, too, that's a big key up it too, like for like, somebody that's working in food service industry, like, yeah, like it's like this, like you gotta be professional.
Right.
Now, there are cases where, like, what I'm saying, customers get to a stream and they, like, just flat out disrespecting you, calling you out, calling you out your name, being racist in some cases and things like that. Yeah, that's something that I don't think anybody should tolerate. But at the same time, nobody has to die over something like that.
Right.
It's all about self-control and discipline. I mean, like, for me, when I have bad service at a restaurant or a drive-through, guess what? I'm never coming there again.
Exactly.
And you don't have to spend your money at these places and these establishments. Don't go there no more.
That was the same approach I took when that happened. I said, okay, that's the last time they'll see me. I have been going there previously for the past 5 times, but that 6th time was all it took. And I also left a bad review.
That's why I
specifically said on there what the young lady said to me and how disrespectful she was. And I said, I will never visit this establishment again. I let it be known.
Thank you. That's what I was going to bring up too. In this day and age with the technology that we got, like you can sit there, if you really feel some kind of way about that particular establishment, restaurant, whatever, you can get online, put them bad reviews out there, like, what I'm saying, like build a following or whatever and stuff, and get like a whole lot of people saying bad stuff that's gonna like affect that business. Then guess what's gonna happen after that? That business gonna have to make some kind of a change.
Exactly.
If somebody got like, lose their job or something like that, so be it. Because they shouldn't be working there if you're not gonna be professional. If you can't like, practice like self-control or things like that. I've worked in customer service before, so I get it. Like, some people come in like, whatever, like upset at the world and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, it's just, short of being like disrespectful towards me or like, putting hands on me, that's what it would take for me to get violence in any kind of situation like that. Somebody put hands on you, then you got to do what you have to do. But you should be trying to avoid that at all costs.
Exactly. Don't lean into it. Avoid it.
Thoughts and prayers for that woman who lost her life, family at the Steak and Shake. Excuse me. Because that's a tragedy, and that hurts and affect the community. It should. Like we tend not to think deeply on things if it's not happening to us. But again, this was a black woman. Whether she had a bad attitude or not, I don't think she deserved to be shot to death over that. There's still investigations going on. I didn't get all deep into like the story. Because again, for me, this is drive-through rage that should be avoidable. Maybe you shouldn't drink as much when you go out or smoke as much or whatever that's going to sit there and trigger you to act violently against your own people or against anybody when you're just trying to go and get some food. Vice versa. This is beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those situations, Mark, that is probably going to happen again because we have this rage inside of us for whatever reason. We can't control ourselves. But it's one of them situations that unfortunately that young person lost their life. And, you know, for
And that's why
nothing.
we cited, that's why we put light on it right now. And that's why we're talking about it. And we'll talk about it again. I mean, to like try to reach people to like, you know what I'm saying, think again before you react violently and stuff like that. Like, you know, maybe like, you know, take a step back and think to yourself, why am I mad?
Right.
I mean, because things aren't worth going to jail for, things aren't worth dying for.
Yeah, it's one of those situations that we're going to continue to talk about here on the Grown Man Podcast because, as you said, it's very important. Maybe we can help someone who is going through that kind of rage and tell them to have some self discipline or get some help. Another topic I wanted to talk about, Mark, something that came up this week is the city of Chicago is owed $8 billion in debt and the city workers owe $9 million. So that's the funny part to me because I was speaking to someone earlier this week and I'm saying, yeah, the city is always claiming they're broke. They're always in debt. And yet they're not collecting the money from the people who work for the city who owes money. And I see these things all the time because, I see where there are people who work for the city and they park in front of hydrants or they're parking in no parking zones and all these different things and they're piling up tickets and there's never a boot placed on their personal vehicle. And that goes for city workers of all kind and CTA workers as well. So what do you think about something like this where the city of Chicago is owed $8 billion and the workers owe $9 million?
Main thing about it is a lack of accountability. I mean, it's like this is like one of those things that's been a mess that's been building up for like over like decades. I mean, you're talking about $8 billion of that like accumulated over a large long period of time, and it's like every time we get somebody that's trying to take one step forward, we get pushed like two, three, four steps backwards. It's like this is an accountability issue. This is a whole breakdown, and this is something that, like, people need to pay attention to when they claim that, like, voting don't matters and stuff. I mean, this is things too because you can vote better people in these positions, whether it be the mayor or the aldermen, Congress, all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is things that you want to have in your mind frame when you, think about issues. I mean, because again, like we all live in the state of Illinois. Well, I'm not going to say we all, but like you and I, we live in the state of Illinois. Like
and a lot of our listeners as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're a taxpayer. I mean, everybody lives somewhere. I mean, basically, what I'm trying to say, if you're paying taxes, you living somewhere. I mean, these are things that it's gonna like affect you in one way or the other. Because once again, like in Chicago, I know about like the schools that was closed down, and schools with like lack of resources, and communities with lack of resources and stuff that they need to help people to. All of these things, you know what I'm saying? There's no jobs and stuff out there. So that's what's causing like a lot of young folks to be out there in the streets doing what they do because they can't make money, income doing other things. So they don't have like other activities to be involved in. This is, again, a big accountability issue that needs to be addressed. And I believe Mayor Johnson is trying to address a number of these issues, but I mean, he can't do everything all by himself all at once. It just don't work that way. Yes. So it should be some kind of accountability and investigations happening right now, and it should lead to like getting like collecting on these payments.
Well, a lot of them they did do some collecting on because this is something that has been piling up. And there are a lot right now of city workers. It's one in particular, I believe she worked for the school Chicago Public Schools, and I think she owes a large sum of money too that they're trying to get. And then there was someone else who committed fraud. So there are several people right now who they are going after because these independent investigations are turning up all of these things, and especially with these the watchdogs that are reporting these things, that are blowing the whistle on what's going on in the city government. Of course, this debt has been accumulated since the 1980s. So you're talking about stuff from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s up till now, where this money is piling up in debt. And a lot of it, like I said before, and we've talked about here on the Grown Men Podcast. If you didn't hear us before, go back and listen. We talked about all of the times where the police officers have been guilty of punishing people or getting coercing for false, false statements from people of saying they committed crimes that they didn't. And then also torturing and beat down, and also people being sentenced to prison for crimes they didn't commit. So the city has a backlog of debt that they have to pay off just on that. And then you got the city workers scamming off the top. But that's going on in a lot of companies right now. And the city of Chicago is just like any other city that's in debt, right?
Yeah. And it's going to take like more like exposure and resources. And that's the problem when you have like a chaotic federal government right now.
Yes.
That's trying to like, keep resources from the city or whatever, for like, whatever reasons. They're trying to keep and take away these like resources, because that's the thing. You need money for like, like legal funds and lawyers and things of that nature to like work these cases, these cases, and really get to the bottom line of things to like help better serve the people. Because that's what it's all about, is to like, provide the people rights and resources that we need to have better lives. That way we can be better contributors to your country, to your state, to your city, to your neighborhood, all that. That's how like things supposed to work. I mean, when government actually works properly the way it's supposed to do, and not get caught into these bureaucratic entanglements and things that like, once again, will get you, will like, help you move one step forward. Then you got something else that's going to like, just like kick your knees out, take your legs from underneath you when you're trying to reach true progress. And like, once again, stifles, progression to like do the right thing by the people in the communities. Because that's a big number right there. And that's going to like, again, that's going to continue to pile on. I mean, we can do, you get some kind of progress, but this is something that has to be turned over right away, preferably.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where we're going to continue to talk about it here on the Grown Men Podcast, because I got a feeling that this is just the beginning. With the watchdogs and everybody right now trying to find out exactly where that money is and when the city is going to collect it. Another topic I wanted to move on to, Mark, is something that you alluded to and I did earlier when we were talking, and that is basically the Gucci Man situation. And it's like people all over social media calling Gucci a snitch for testifying. So, what's going on with this situation? You've been keeping an ear on it.
Well, we had mentioned it before. That's, pretty much probably like widely known at this point. Gucci Mane, the famous, rapper, producer and all that kind of stuff. He was kidnapped and robbed by another local rapper, Pooh Shiesty.
Is that still allegedly, or did it actually happen?
Well, we had mentioned before that Shiesty was in court, and he was kind of like had his head down low and stuff. So
yeah, it's just one of those situations. I find it funny because everybody always says allegedly, right?
Yeah, because he has to be. I guess it got to be final in the court of law, where like the judge like pounds that gavel and say guilty, So until that has officially happened, I guess it's still allegedly. I mean, you can come with some kind of like surprise evidence to show that there was someone else that was dressed up like Pooh Shiesty. But so yeah, this guy who's been like in and out of jail, who has problems with the law from very young age and all that kind of stuff like that. He signed a deal with Gucci Mane. He wasn't happy with his contract. He wanted to get out of his contract, so he decided that the best way to do that is to rob and kidnap on the rapper producers.
Yeah,
And
and
so
then have your old man in the deal with you.
yes, his old man, his father helped out along with a lot of their like friends and associates. I think it's somewhere between like 8 and 14 guys, maybe more than that. I mean, it was a team effort, never nonetheless. So I mean, they all. I mean, they managed to get all their people involved in this to like help them out with this whole thing, and that pretty much led to like Pooh Shiesty being the main target to be arrested again and is now in court over this whole matter. So we had brought up the fact that Gucci Mane, because we didn't know at the time if he actually did speak out and cooperate with the police, about the things that had happened to him, because he's the person who had the crime committed on.
Right.
So yeah, we now know that he did cooperate with the police, and more than likely he's going to testify against Pooh Shiesty. And there are people in the like ATL community and these like rappers and street dudes and stuff like that who was very heartbroken over this. The fact that Gucci Mane, who raps, who's famously known for like trap rap music, right? I mean, he talks about like being in the streets and what I'm saying, like living that street life. Now he's out here talking to the police, which goes against this unwritten street code that like a lot of us have grew up understanding and knowing that you don't talk to the police no matter what. Beyond no circumstances, don't talk to the police, don't snitch, none of that type of stuff. So Pooh Shiesty is going back to jail probably because Gucci Mane is talking to the police. He's cooperating against a crime against him. So my way of looking at this thing, this street code, don't talk to the police, all that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, I get all that, right? If you somebody that's out there that's like, about that life, whether you doing your own trapping or doing like these illegal acts, with people that you know of and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're not supposed to be seen with no police. That's a bad look, and that's a look that can probably like have you murdered if the wrong people see you with these cars. But again, like we put these kind of codes and these like justifications for like doing stuff. I mean, but are we forgetting the fact that Pooh Shiesty, a man who just got out of jail, it might have been like weeks before he committed this alleged act of kidnapping and robbing Gucci Mane. It's like, where is the accountability? Who is responsible for this? Like, why? Like, why are we taking a contract dispute to robbery and kidnapping? I mean, that to me should be the bigger outrage. I mean, like Gucci Mane, talking to the police about a crime that happened against him. I mean, he has the right to do that.
Exactly.
By all means, I don't see that going against like some kind of like street. I mean, he was the one that was kidnapped and robbed.
Exactly.
I mean, what would the street, the hood, prefer him to do? Is to what, kidnap and rob him back or murder him? I mean, like, how did that work?
Well, see, Mark, you just hit it right on the head, because here's G code, what people don't seem to understand. And I was speaking to somebody earlier this week about this very topic, and I said that I was going to get fired up about it because I see all this garbage on social media where people talking about don't snitch, you snitching, dry snitching, and all this garbage. Let me put it flat out like this to anybody who thinks that way. Gucci Mane was well within his right because he was violated to talk to the police if that's what he chose to do. A person like myself might do the same thing because I'm trying to save two lives. That person and myself. Because see, if you want to take things to street code, that's why so many of us are in the penitentiary right now. Because we couldn't stop and think. We wanted that vengeance. We wanted that revenge. But then you sitting in prison for 25, 30 years saying, I got my revenge. I got my get back against my adversary, against my op. And for what? Now you away from your wife and children, if that's what you have. You're away from your family. You can't provide for them and you can't fend for them and defend them because you made a stupid choice when you could have simply walked down to that police station and said, this is what happened against me. I'm trying to save two lives. This individual who committed this act and myself. That's what I'm doing. And if that's snitching, I guess I'm a snitch. Because see, I can see dudes one-on-one and face-to-face. That's nothing to me. But why should I put my future on the line for something stupid like that? Makes no sense.
And I mean, again, when people are claiming like, oh, this going against the culture, what culture is that going against? Like, how did this help anybody? Because when we use that whole culture stuff, it's pretty much relating towards black people and what we are, like who we are to each other and what do we represent in your hood, in your community, on your block, and like all of that stuff. And it's like all this stuff, like, because once you get to a certain like age, if you live long enough, you realize that this is nonsense because you don't have any kind of control over your block or your community. The government has control over that.
Exactly.
The state has control over all of that.
Exactly. We don't own none of this.
None of it.
Nothing.
You're just standing out there on the block and things like that. Like, you're not really helping progress the community. You actually like destroying the community even more. You helping them destroy the community, and they're helping them keep resources and things like that out the community. Oh, this is a dangerous area. We can't build no companies here. We can't do anything over here. We can't have no Olympics. We can't have no stadiums, none of that kind of stuff. They use these things as an excuse to take away resources and then to like add more police. Yeah, let's get more police. Let's go bang some more heads. Let's get more law enforcement and stuff. It's it's a whole ridiculous notion of like, oh, that Gucci did something so egregious against the community. He's hurting the community. And like you said, he's saving a life. Actually, if you that out of control, that's your first thought to like handle a contract dispute is to rob and kidnap somebody, then yeah, maybe you need to be in jail some more.
Exactly. That's what my point came.
Maybe he can read something and like, like come across a understanding like, yeah, I kind of messed up. Hey, maybe if I was better educated, maybe I wouldn't sign such a bad deal.
Yeah.
Nobody forced him. I don't believe Gucci put a gun to his head and made him sign that contract that he's still under, by the way.
These guys get in it and they get in it and they hot, and then right now they sign a deal with a well-known guy like Gucci, and they thinking, yeah, everything is gonna be good, everything gravy. Then they guys start talking to him, their father started talking to him, man, dude, robbing you blind, man, he living good off you. Once again, you know how that go. We ran We Rise Entertainment over here. We continue to run it. We've dealt with artists in the past. We know what their MO is. That's why I, fell back on that. Because dealing with these characters, because they don't understand how this business works, they just think it's upfront and easy to make it happen, and it's not. But, what can I say?
Well, man, it's just all about you got to take this personal responsibility and stuff, man. You sign a bad contract, that's on you. Because if you somebody because there are cases where people do get taken advantage of. No doubt about that. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because it does happen.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's really right now, it's still wide open as to what's going to go on. They got the thing going on now. Everybody on social media is so outraged. Don't know why that is. But it's one of those things we're going to continue to monitor here on the Grown Man Podcast because I just want to see what's going to happen if this thing all breaks down. If he goes to prison, how are people going to view Gucci Mane? So we'll see. It's just one of those things that continue to go on. And we're going to monitor here on the Grown Man Podcast. Another topic I wanted to talk about, Mark, I'm quite sure you've been following this story as well as the R&B singer D4VD. That's what it's written as. It's funny to me. I know it probably means something else, but, his lawyers are saying that he was not the cause of his teen girlfriend's death. And that was at the time the 14-year-old named Celeste Rivers Hernandez. And she went missing from Lake Ellensmore, California back in April 2023. But the R&B singer, which is his real name is David Burke, his lawyers are saying, look, he has no knowledge of it, even though it was his vehicle they found in California and her dismembered body inside that vehicle. What do you know about it?
I mean, not a whole much more than what they are reporting. I mean, this whole thing, like you said, is like his vehicle. She was found in that vehicle. I mean, they had a relationship. They had a secret relationship at the time when she was alive, but nevertheless, they had a relationship. I mean, this is one of those things. Like he's saying that he had nothing to do with it, and that might be true, but it's a situation that he put himself in. I mean, he got involved with this young woman at the time, and it goes back to like when we was talking about like other stories and stuff before. I mean, when you are a individual, you got to have some kind of discipline, some kind of like personal. You got to take some personal responsibility to not allow yourself to be in a situation, especially if you're at a level of being a person in power and somebody that has money and somebody that's a celebrity. All of those things, because you're gonna like open up yourself to all kind of like attacks. I mean, whether it was like warranted or not, I mean, people gonna come after you, right? If you got some money or something like that, people, there's all kind of like scavengers out here that's trying to collect the payday. In this situation, I mean, this was a girl that he was involved with. I mean, at the time, I think we had said that, she was 14 and he may have been 19 at the time.
Yeah.
And like people would like, argue, well, I mean, he's still technically a teenager himself. I mean, which is true enough.
But but at when you get to 18, because they've had cases now where 18-year-olds have been charged as sex offenders for going out with 17-year-olds. So that has happened. So that has happened. So in a situation like that, when you look at that from the outside, it looks bad and it looks suspect. That's why they holding him without a bond. Because
it also depends on what state you are in too, stuff, because that be the whole thing too. If you in like
we know Alabama and places like that do not honor that. They, hey, if you 21 years old and with a 14-year-old, they consider that normal. So that's this is what needs to be more like normalized or renormalized. The fact that like
if somebody's 14 years old and you are not 14 years old, then yeah, you probably shouldn't mess with that girl.
Right.
Because this is still a child.
Right.
And like we sit there and in our society, you know, we go through this whole thing because yeah, we see. I said you and I agree, like you know what I'm saying. 14-year-olds are way different than the 14-year-olds that I grew up around, and way different from the ones that you grew up around. Meaning like the way they dress, how they look, how they carry themselves, and all that kind of stuff. And we like, you know, once you take away all that makeup or like the or the leggings or the like, you know, the thickness and all that kind of stuff or the bustiness, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, take all that stuff aside. This girl is 14 years old.
Exactly.
Or she's 13 years old. Or she's 15. Like this is still a kid, a child.
Yeah.
A child.
Yeah.
Point blank. Period. She's a child. And if you're not her age, you know, I mean, because what I tell people all the time, like your brain is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna sit there and like, you know, shame any women for like dressing how they dress. Like, oh, you shouldn't dress like that. Because I don't agree that young women should dress, you know, wear like thongs and things like that or booty shorts and none of that stuff. I don't agree with it, but they have the right to do so.
Right.
And guess what else? Just because they do so don't mean that they're like open the door to be taken advantage of sexually or like, you know what I'm saying, molested or any of that stuff.
Right.
Because a lot of people, like, that's what like defense attorneys do when they're trying to get their client off. Is like, oh, they kind of asked for it, or well, they went to that party knowing that it was going to be, you know, X, Y, and Z over there and all that kind of stuff. Like nobody deserves to be violated. I don't care if somebody's walking around outside naked. If somebody's out there naked in the street and all that kind of stuff, that don't mean that you should do whatever you want to do with it. So I mean, you know, Mr. David Burke, Mr. David Anthony Burke, like he put himself in a situation that he could have avoided. I mean, you know, and it's up to his team or whatever he has over there as like, you know, legal defense to like, you know what I'm saying, see what they can come up with. But it still is a bad look and it's still damaging and it's also bad for his reputation. Because, I mean, you know, people going to look at this like, you know what I'm saying, some kind of way. I mean, again, like unless it's something that's going to come out that's going to like clear them all this. I mean, first of all, I mean, even like to take it back real quick, we don't want to go over too much time, but the fact that he's just now been questioned or like arrested for this. I mean, this happened, what was it again, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, but the body was found on September 8th, 2025. So, you know, it's not a year. I mean, it's 6 months or so.
Right.
The whole point is that, you know, it was found, it's his vehicle, it's his car in his name that's abandoned. So it's registered to him. So that's the thing. I mean, it's hard. It's going to be hard for you to beat that unless it's one of those, you know, crime stories like you see on TV where somebody set him up. So I just don't see, you know, and it's not far from the Hollywood home, the rental home that he was residing in. So, I mean, all of these things are pointing toward him. It's going to take a hell of a defense to try to mitigate some of what happened here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it can be very possible that somebody is, you know, I mean, out to set them up. But again, like you want to try to avoid putting yourself in those situations. I just keep going back to the fact that, like, you know, this was a young woman. This, you know, whatever happened to her did not deserve to be happened to her. And also, as a young woman, and like he was an older man. I mean, like I said, still like considered a teenager at the age of 19. But I would hope that he would have known a little bit more than what she did, than what she had known, like at that age, at that young, pure age. It's like, don't put yourself in them situations like that, like with these like young women and stuff. Get people your age. You know, I mean, that's what like a lot of people should do. And like, yeah, we see this happening too, where you see like somebody in their 40s, like, you know what I'm saying, mess with somebody that's like 18, 19 years old. I mean, that's Shannon Sharp got like caught up into all his like ridiculous situations and stuff. I mean, like going chasing after these damn young girls and then getting themselves caught up on text messages and voicemails and things like that. Now you looking crazy and all that kind of stuff. I mean, again, you need to like avoid putting yourself in things that you know better, at least should know better.
Yeah, so for this situation right here, we know that they're going to continue to try to find out what happened. They're going to continue to investigate it. And if anything comes up, of course, we're going to talk about it here on the Grown Men Podcast. But, condolences to that family of that girl, because the mother, she was saying that, yes, they were dating. She had a 19-year-old boyfriend named David. So it's one of these situations where his name has been dropped. He was big on social media. That's how he got his start. But now it looks like there is going to be a dark cloud over him forever. And if he committed this act, it should be. Another thing I want to talk about, Mark, that ties right into this situation is, for many, social media is real life. So I've been thinking about this and been contemplating it for a while as I continue to read some of these posts that some of these people put online, and the things that they say. They act as though they're speaking to people in real life when you're only speaking to them behind a device that you hold in your hand. Have you been seeing any of these things that I see when people, the things that they say on social media that they think won't backfire with their employers or with their friends or their families, or they regret saying some of these things that they say?
Man, we talked about this stuff like before. We're gonna keep. I mean, because it's like this. This is like the new social norm now. I mean, people get out there on these social media platforms, in these group chats, and all over the place saying all kind of things and doing all kind of things, and like exposing themselves in so many different ways. I mean, not just like sexually, but like a lot of it do be sexually and things like that. And they voicing these opinions, and like, it's kind of like a catch-22 in a way. I mean, social media, you're saying things on Reddit. You're saying the name social media in of itself, which means that it's like open, that it's out there. Once you type something, once you record something, you put it on those platforms, it's like out there for years and years, for like pretty much forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're talking about your work or talking about people at work, yeah, chances are things gonna get out there and it's gonna get back to the person or people that you're talking about. And it's like, if you need to talk to people, actually talk to people in real life, in real time.
Yeah.
You don't have to go on the platform. I mean, like, if you have somebody close enough that you consider a friend, I mean, you should be able to like communicate with that friend and talk to them about the problems that you're going through. And because I think that's a lot of it too. Like a lot of us, especially as young man,
right,
or older man, like we don't address our emotions because we always been taught for a long time that's weakness. A man can't cry. A man can't show fear and pain and this and that. And we keep all this stuff bottled up and bottled inside until we explode in the worst ways possible. Whether you putting your hands on your woman, whether you doing something crazy like kidnapping a rapper and all that kind of stuff, or whatever the case is. It's like we don't know how to like deal with stuff that's going on with us. And some of us do have like our homeboys, our best friends and stuff, ride or dies, all that kind of stuff. But we don't tend to want to open up, to them because we feeling some kind of shame or some kind of embarrassment and things like that. Not realizing there's like, most people in real life have the same issues and feelings that you be having about things, and nobody wants to open up. Nobody wants to get therapy. Don't want to show signs of weakness. But you get on social media and talk crazy and end up losing your job, or in some cases losing your life if you're saying the wrong thing about the wrong person, or like, or you end up getting teased about what you said on social media, then you take your life. It's a thing where like you gotta understand that social media is a great tool, but that's what it is. It's a tool. And you should be using it for like, things that's gonna benefit you in some kind of way. But when it comes to like your personal feelings and your personal situations, yeah, you should probably stay off of social media, because that's not gonna do anything but create a bigger problem than what you have going on.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, Mark. Some of the things that I see are so asinine and ridiculous. I'm like, why would you even say this on social media? This is stupid. Because now everybody's in your business and you invited them in your business. That's the part that gets me. And they speak as if they're speaking to someone one-on-one when you're speaking to thousands, maybe possibly millions. Because as you alluded to earlier, once you post that stuff, it's out there. There are no takebacks. You can't say, oh, I didn't say that. But that's what a lot of them do. Oh, I got hacked. No, this is what came out of your account. So it's just as good as coming out of your mouth. And for some people, social media is their real life. That's where they go to vent. That's where their outrage is. That's where they go and coincide with people and talk to family. I mean, everything they do is on and through their phones, their devices. I just don't understand. And you're putting your personal business out there. And then when people comment on you, then you get upset and you're angry and mad. I don't understand that.
Because it becomes too much of a convenience. I mean, everybody, like we talked about this before, like everybody now has a phone.
Right.
Like, I mean, people get phones and stuff like as young as like, 4 and 5 years old now. And we got all this great technology that we use irresponsibly. We're not using it in the right way. We're not like, again, like social media has its benefits if you're trying to like, if you have a business and you're trying like to, advertise or get some stuff. I mean, just like we do right now. Like, I mean, this is part of social media, but we're putting out like, thoughts and expressions to like, hopefully give somebody a different perspective or a better perspective, or like, maybe, hear like a different, like some kind of like thought process that they didn't think about before. But it's like, when you just like, living your life, like, separated from like everybody, family, friends, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, because people spend max hours on social media,
right,
on these platforms, on these, and this is all they pretty much know. You like allow yourself to get like, sunken in. You're now in the sunken space where it's like, this is all you have. And then what happens when you have that taken away from you? Because that's the thing, like when you can't express yourself in society or like, speak your mind to a person and stuff, I mean, like to like anybody, then you have some real deep issues. And it's like, again, like this stuff is not going to be secret. Like once you put it out there, it's out there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those situations, Mark, where we're going to continue to talk about it on the Grown Men podcast, because I just think that it's ridiculous, some of the things that I see. And sometimes I don't even bother reading it because I know what it's going to start out with. I just go right past it. But I just don't understand it. I guess it's one of those situations where it's not meant for me to understand it. But we're going to move on to another topic, Mark, and that is what we were speaking about earlier. And you brought this topic up. Does having a gay son make you a bad parent? And I think that's an interesting subject. So, Mark, I would like you to elaborate what made you come up with, to a thought process about these things.
Well, basically, like the whole, like, genesis or like, origin, like, to this topic for me was, we're going back to social media and stuff. Sometimes I like, get on like, social media, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, and stuff like, you see like little videos or memes or articles and stuff like that. But for like a good period of time and stuff, I would keep on seeing like things come up about like Magic Johnson and his son, EJ.
EJ, right, EJ.
Irvin Johnson Jr.
Right.
And it'd be like, oh, they show, because Magic Johnson, for those who don't know, which I'm quite sure everybody should know or know by now, he has a gay son, and he he not only has a gay son, he has a what they would call a flamboyant gay son. I mean, who dresses in women's clothes a lot. I mean, that's how he's comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Doing. He's he's very openly gay. He likes to wear makeup, all that kind of stuff. But Magic Johnson's son, EJ, he has a career. He is a fashion correspondent for E! News. He made appearances on lots of shows like Whitney Williams, things like that. He's very in the fashion world. I mean, he's into that. He's living his best life. And one thing about him and Magic family, what I have noticed is that he has a great relationship with his dad. Like Magic Johnson loves his son loves his dad. Magic Johnson buys his son a very extravagant purse, handbag, or whatever, like every year for his birthday, stuff like that. They go on family vacations together. They take trips, all this kind of stuff, all this wonderful thing. But people call Magic Johnson a bad dad because his son likes men and his son dresses like he does and he behaves like he does. So that makes Magic Johnson a bad father. And again, just like I said, these people have a relationship that I wish I would have had with my old man, and that I know a lot of people wish they would have had with their family and their fathers and their mothers and stuff like that. You talk about taking trips and stuff, and I get it. Magic got money like that and all that kind of stuff. But outside of the money, like, you know what I'm saying, he never pushed his son away. Like, oh, you can't be in this family, you know what I'm saying, photo because you wearing a dress. It's like this stuff is like beyond ridiculous and mind-boggling. It's like, what makes a good father? I mean, would you prefer like to have a son that's straight, but like, you know what I'm saying, y'all don't do stuff together, or this kid is getting into trouble all the time, or he got like, you know what I'm saying, 4 or 5 different baby mamas, or like he got like a whole catalog, you know what I'm saying, full of women and stuff, and he's pimping, or he's selling drugs, or doing that kind of stuff. It's like, first of all, like, what Magic Johnson's son does is not none of our business or concern.
Right.
And that's what gets me with, like, people on social media and in real life that sit there and judge Magic Johnson or try to say how bad of a person he is because of what his son choose to do and choose to be. It's stupid to me.
Well, if they're going to say he's a bad parent, they might as well say that Dwayne Wade's a bad parent. They might as well say Marlon Wayans is a bad parent, and so on and so on. Because they all have, children who decided in their life, or whatever the case may be, maybe they were born that way, whatever the case, it's not our business. And that's what I try to tell people all the time. So what? So what, they're gay? That's their business, not ours, and not for people to judge people. But that's what we do in society, Mark. We do it all the time. We judge people and we know nothing about them. People can say he's flamboyant. They can say he's this and that. And, everybody make their little jokes or whatever. My whole point is I would never publicly disrespect anyone for whatever gender they chose or whatever lot they chose in life, because it's their business. They're still human beings. We're all human beings. Nobody's different from anybody else. If you cut us, we bleed red. We need help just like everyone else. If we get sick, we have to go to the doctors. We get treatment just like everyone else. Nobody is different. Our preferences are. But not,
and that's what
who we are as people.
To. I mean, what you just said, like we all are here. We all are like human beings at the end of the day and stuff. And I think it's like well past the point now, in particular the black community, in particular with grown black men,
right,
to stop behaving in this way. When you see somebody that's a homosexual, that's gay, that's a trans, or whatever and stuff, that's their lifestyle and their choice. Like I said, we can argue back and forth with the whole pronoun things and how, like, some of those people, some of the trans get like overly offended, like because they want to be preferred to as a different name, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. That's not so much what that about. I mean, my whole thing is that don't make being gay, being trans, whatever, don't make anybody a bad person. What makes bad people bad people is when they do bad stuff.
Right.
When you sit there and engage in like things that like you know is wrong, when you're taking advantage of somebody, when you're taking somebody's resources and money from them, or you're taking, or you like, you know, taking somebody's body. You know, I mean, when you're forcing yourself on somebody,
right?
You know, when you're sitting there doing these things that's gonna hurt your people, when you're providing drugs for somebody,
right?
That makes you a bad person right there. You can justify like all you want to is like, oh, I'm trying to help my family get out the hood. Let me sell these drugs. It's still wrong because you're still destroying somebody else's life for your own personal gain. Those are bad things. And it's like, you know, when we sit there and see somebody and we got a relative, because I mean, let's just be real about it. Like, you know, we grew up with a whole different mindset. And we was laughing at people that were gay. We was using the F word and things like that because at the time that was the way. Just the same way at the time when people was having those minstrel shows and making fun of a person that was like African or African descent and having the big lips and talking about how lazy and shiftless and stupid they are. That was the thing of the time too, to make fun of those people and to make money making fun of them and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like, in our community, like, I mean, you know, we should like love the people that's in our lives. We don't have to love what they do.
Right.
And like, I mean, if you're not, you know, if you don't agree with their lifestyle choices, fine. Nobody's asking you to, like, you know what I'm saying, be in their bedroom and watch them do those things.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, I mean, why should they be kicked out of the church or kicked out of Thanksgiving dinner and all that kind of stuff? I mean, like, come on. I mean, this is beyond stupid, and all that does is help divide us even more than we already are divided. So we got to get out the whole point of calling Magic Johnson a bad father when, like, his kids never got in any kind of trouble. We can say it all day and go down a list of, like, you know what I'm saying, celebrities, these strong, manly men who had kids that done stupid things and they got themselves in trouble and messed up the family business, messed up the family name, doing all kind of unnecessary, stupid stuff.
And not only
they didn't have to do.
And not only that, Mark, a lot of them, especially those people in the January 6th deals, they were out here molesting children. So these are so-called manly men, right? These alpha males, but yet they were out abusing children. These were the so-called manly males. So what do you mean, tell me? You would rather have a child molester as a son or someone that is gay? To me, that's what it all boils down to. You want someone who is a criminal, but he's a manly criminal. Why? What made him a man when you put your hands on children? You're less than a man. You're not a man at all. You're not even human when you put your hands on children. It's something that, it's one of those, to me, unforgiving things. You have to wrestle yourself with it. You know, you have to wrestle with forgiveness for everybody because that's what you're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, children are vulnerable. But I ain't want to get off into that because we're talking about a totally different thing. But I'm trying to compare two things, you know, as to, you know, the worst thing in the world you can be is gay. So being a murderer, that's fine with that. It reminds me of the episode of The Simpsons where Homer thought Bart was being gay because of the gay man had the toys and liked to play and all that. You remember that episode? And then he takes Bart out and he says, "Hey, what pack of cigarettes you want to smoke? What's your brand?" I mean, anything that is supposed to be considered manly. And that's why I get upset. But, you know, it's one of those situations where people just don't understand. It does not make a difference, you know, if you have a gay child or not. That does not make you a bad parent. Being a bad parent is abandoning your children, not being there for them when they're grown up. And these are the people who are so-called strong men or strong women. So I don't want to hear any of that garbage. They can miss me with that one.
It's nonsense, and again, the reason why I'm breaking up because it's still too many you know what I'm saying, like communities that's still like, you know what I'm saying, not accepting or want to like, you know, just pretty much like, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, ban these people because of what they choose to do sexually and stuff like that. But you're gonna, yeah, but you would glorify somebody for being a pimp or whatever, or you know, you know, I mean, doing things of that nature. I mean, which is, you know, I mean, which is worse. I mean, if you think
Yeah,
about it, like you're
much worse.
controlling women and you're making money off of them, or you taking advantage of them, and you have all these different girlfriends and stuff like that. Like that's something to glorify. Like I said, I don't judge none of it, you know. And I mean, you shouldn't judge anybody if they wants to have, you know, to be with somebody of the same sex. That's their personal business.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you just said it all, Mark. You summed it up right there. It's people's personal business. Nobody is a bad parent based on someone's sexuality or their choices in life. It doesn't work that way. And anybody who believes that, you need to go get your head checked because it's something wrong with you. But we're going to move on to another topic I want to talk about, Mark, that's came up this week. And of course, RFK Jr., once again, this idiot, this moron who works for Felon 47, he was, you know, he was testifying in front of Congress about some of the things he said about black babies being retooled. And RFK was yelling and interrupting everything that you would see a 72-year-old man with that had worms eat his brain, you know, things that he would say. So, you know, back in 2024, when he was a candidate, he appeared on a YouTube show. It was hosted by an influencer to discuss mental health issues facing black men. And then he says every black kid is now just standard put on Adderall or SSRI, benzos, which are known to induce violence. And those children are going to have a chance to go somewhere to get reparented. This is what he said out of his own mouth. And here, you know, this is the man who serves as our health secretary. And during that congressional hearing about this, the Democratic representative out of Alabama, Terry Sewell, read his comment back to him as if he had ever parented or reparented a black child. And he says, I don't even know what that phrase means, and I doubt I said that, he replied. You absolutely said it, Sewell shot back. I'm not going to answer something that I didn't say, Kennedy said. I'd like to hear the recording as it doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what that means. And she replied, I don't either. That's why I'm asking you. During the interview, Kennedy explained that his wellness farms would be free and anyone who is dependent on legal or illegal drugs, including psychiatric drugs, could live in a community with no cell phones or screens, eat organic food, which is raw milk, which is why people are still getting sick, which he had to testify for that, and earn a trade, such as baking or furniture making. This is what he continues to say and repeats this same stuff. And then he accused her of making it up. And she's saying, I'm absolutely not making it up. This is what you said. And, you know, for him to stand up there and say this, and once again, as I go back to the celebrity pool, because all of them, especially the black celebrities, all of them jumped on his side and to his aid when he said no vaccines. They were all there taking pictures with him and everything else. Well, what about him wanting to kidnap babies and then take them and retrain them, or kidnap kids and take them to a farm and reparent them? The things that he said sounds like slavery to me. So here's my take on that, Mark, and I'm going to let you address this situation, because when I heard this and when I saw him testify, it fired me up, especially against these so-called black celebrities and black Americans in general, because they didn't want to get vaccinated because it did something to them. You idiots and you morons. We've been getting vaccinated since we came to this planet. Vaccines is what wiped out a lot of these illnesses that we had. That's why you didn't see polio show back up. That's why you didn't see measles up until now. Now we got an epidemic of measles again. Why? Because people aren't vaccinated. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing I want to say about this situation is for the simple fact they always try to talk about the issues with, oh, black kids on this, the black kids on this. No. The main issue I've said from day one is the James Eversons of the households are not there. These fathers walked out on their kids. Some of them were murdered. Some of them were sent to the penitentiary. And when it comes to sons, mothers cannot raise sons. They need fathers, and they need father figures, which I'm going to talk about a story later in this podcast about that situation. But for these black celebrities who align themselves with RFK Jr.'s way of thinking, are you aligning yourself with this? Is what you want to align yourself with? Someone who wants to take our children and reparent them because somehow we don't know how to do it. It's disgusting that he was saying like that to black people as a whole, as if we're not good enough to raise our children. That's what pissed me off about this situation. But what do you say about it, Mark?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, first, I want to address the fact when you bring up like many of the black celebrities and some black, because it wasn't all black people, like, you know what I'm saying, like clearly that bought into the jab is bad and all that kind of stuff. But again, like many of the black celebrities, unfortunately, and we talked about this before, it's pretty much a lack of knowledge of, like, you know what I'm saying, history. Like you just mentioned, like, people been getting vaccines from the beginning of time. Like before you get to go to school, you get vaccines and all that kind of stuff, right? When you're a baby and all that kind of stuff, you got to go in to get all kind of shots and all that kind of stuff. And so vaccines been a thing for a long, long time. I don't have to exact dates and all that kind of stuff when all that stuff, started happening and everything. But as the world and as society have developed and all that kind of stuff, that's why they came up with all these different things. And that's the problem with black celebrities is not taking the time to understand history. They go off of feelings and vibes and what's going on at that time during COVID when everything was coming out and breaking down and things of that nature. They was getting impatient and upset and things of that, and which a lot of people had the right to be upset and mad and all that kind of stuff. But you got to express your anger with, at the time, it was felon 45. Now felon 47.
Exactly.
And of course, people who don't know by now, we're referring to Donald Trump, the felon president of these United States. He was in office when COVID-19 dropped and all that kind of stuff and shut down the whole country and the whole world pretty much. A whole lot of things could have been done differently, but we're not discussing that. But again, with these black celebrities, these people like that has these platforms and has all these followers, and they put out this disinformation, this misinformation, all this stuff out there that's gonna be damaging to people who don't have their bank account.
Exactly.
When you're a black celebrity, when you're a star, you have resources and things like that where you can get treatments, that you can get to places. You can move around a lot better than people that don't have their type of bank account and resources. That's the big key thing right there. When you choose, going back to social media again, you get on social media, you put all this stuff out there, and people's going to read into that because they have a certain admiration for you because of the things that you have done on a football field or a basketball court or in a movie or in a song and all these type of things and stuff. And you sit there and speak out of pocket. Now, when it comes to Robert Kennedy Jr., the son of the late Robert Kennedy, who was gunned down, first of all, most of this man's family, pretty much disowns him. They went out on social media platforms and news interviews and stuff like that. His cousins was urging Congress senators not to vote this guy in. I think Senator Booker was one of the ones that had confirmed him doing his Senate confirmation. Thanks, Corey. This guy's a lunatic. I mean, this guy famously said that like doing H helped him out in college or whatever, and he talked about sniffing cocaine off of toilet seats. So that in itself should tell you that you shouldn't listen to anything that comes. I'm not about to listen to nobody that snort cocaine off of a toilet seat.
Yeah.
I don't even begin to understand how you would do that. Is he talking about snorting off the lid of the toilet seat or the actual toilet seat that you sit down on? I don't see a reason to do that. I don't know. But that fact alone should disqualify him from any kind of conversation. But the things that he said was typical of many of white America that subscribe to whiteness, white supremacy is to question and try to educate black people on how they should raise their kids, what they should be doing and shouldn't be doing, and this or that. It's that whole control factor because time ago, and not so, you know what, let me rephrase that. Many white people still consider black people their property. They still consider black people as subhuman.
Exactly.
They still consider us as people that needs to be controlled and guided and surveillance and police and all of those things. So that's why they feel the need to sit there and say what they want to say on certain kind of platforms and in certain kind of areas. They most of them know better not to say that in certain kind of communities or places where they might be outnumbered, but in spaces where they feel comfortable at, more likely online or places where they're very far away from the masses of black people. They're gonna sit there and talk that stuff. And it's our job as the black community to sit there and call them out and to respond every single time things like that happen. Because it is nowhere in the world that, you should be, telling us how we should raise our kids and things like that. Because in that same interview, or it might have been a different interview that you were speaking about earlier,
well, this was in front of this was in front of the committee. I didn't mean to cut you off, but this was a congressional hearing. So it wasn't an interview. This was a congressional hearing, and the first time he spoke out was when he was running for president back in 2024.
Right, that the congresswoman from Alabama had brought up.
Right,
it was an interview. That's what I was referring to, because he was saying something about how black kids need to be doing this and that. Don't think of yourself as you losing or something something along those lines, which basically you have to have more pride for yourself and not blame other people or other races for your conditions, basically.
Right.
Basically was trying to pretty much say y'all always complaining about stuff instead of doing something about it or pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and all those type of things.
Yeah,
so
I was listening to Lawrence. I was listening to Lawrence O'Donnell, and he was like, "Yeah, when me and him was in college, and he got caught doing heroin and everything else, and he got cleaned up, but he wanted prison time for other people. In other words, he wanted prison time for black people.
Exactly.
They went away to prison, but he went away to a little farm or whatever where his family sent him so he can get treatment. But no treatment for black people. But you get a hand up, but black people, no, you don't get a hand up. If you're a heroin addict, you just
out. And that right there within itself, this guy is Robert Kennedy Jr.
Exactly.
It's a pretty much basically you might as well say that they are somewhat of a royal family. You talking about John F. Kennedy, his deceased uncle, who was the president of the United States of America.
Exactly.
You talking about Teddy Kennedy, who was a senator. All his family. He got a cousin that was in Congress or that's trying to get back in the Congress. I mean, his family alone, like, I mean, he have all the privileges of the world. Then he got the nerve to sit there and be like, yeah, pull yourself up. When did he pull himself up? And like you just said, like when he got in trouble, he had his family backing to keep him out of stuff. Just same way, Felon 47, his daddy's good name kept him out of being drafted in the military.
Exactly.
But now he sits there and like send out, our kids to go and fight and engage in these illegal wars and get their heads blown off and get their arms and body parts shot up and all this kind of stuff.
But Barron Trump won't. But Barron Trump won't. It won't happen to him. He's not going. He's too tall to go.
He's too tall.
Yeah, he's too tall. So this RFK though, he got under my skin because he's an idiot and he's a moron and he doesn't know anything about being black. So don't tell black people how to parent their children. We can discipline ourselves. Thank you very much. Mr. Worm ate your brain.
He's all around trash individual, period. Like I said, man, he snorted cocaine off of a toilet seat. He said this out of his mouth, but I'm quite sure if he gets questioned about it in any kind of congressional hearing or something like that,
he's going to deny
it. Sit there and deny it too.
Yeah, because that's what Felon 47 does. It's the old denial thing. So
all these people are trash and all these people need to be held accountable for it. That's pretty much going to be the word of the day, accountability, meaning that he should be doing some kind of jail time. I mean, to me personally, I mean, just by the fact that like he's up there like instructing people not to get vaccinated for like a numerous amount of things. And soon as he got in the little power that he does have, then you had like a measles outbreak and all that kind of nonsense. So yeah, I mean, this guy is like pretty much trash. I wouldn't listen to anything he says, and I wouldn't advise anybody else to. But like, for these black people that want to sit there and like, what I'm saying, follow along with that stuff, with the whole vaccines, things like that, sit down for a minute, do a little research, read a couple books, talk to some people who actually do know what they talking about, not a guy that snorts cocaine from off of a toilet seat.
Yeah, it's one of them situations where I'm quite sure he's going to do something else stupid that we're going to have to address on the Grown Men podcast, and we will do it because, in my personal opinion, he's an idiot and a moron. Well, we're going to move on to another topic I wanted to discuss, Mark, and that is the CTA task force wants to crack down on repeat offenders. And this is something that's been going on for a while, ever since the federal government has gotten involved in saying they want to hold or pull funding from the CTA because people are being assaulted. Of course, the federal government only cared when someone white was assaulted, and that's when they got involved, when the white woman was set on fire. But all other crime that's been going on, black people getting shot and stabbed and killed on the train, had no problem with that. But then now they have a big issue. So the CTA is having task force, and I've been riding the trains as I do regularly, and I'm still kind of seeing the same people do the same things. It's just that they're picking different times to do these things. So what do you say about it? Have you been hearing anything about it, or you been kept abreast of this story?
Man, the thing about it and stuff, man, like it's just like with everything, you just shouldn't halfway do stuff. I mean, if you're gonna sit there and like, stand on it all the way and like, what I'm saying, like enforce these laws and rules all the way. I mean, it shouldn't be like, what I'm saying, a selective. People shouldn't sit there and pick and choose when they're gonna like, enforce something to come up with it. Like with these, like, repeat, like basically any kind of public transportation that people use is like, yeah, you should feel safe and unbarred to, like, what I'm saying, get to where you're going.
Right.
Right. Wherever you're traveling to.
Right.
I mean, it really shouldn't be a thing where, like, what I'm saying, something, bad can happen, that some kind of crime can go against you or you can witness. I mean, none of that stuff should be happening. I mean, it's about safety travels. I mean, we should all be able to ride safely on these buses. Now, with that said, like, I mean, there are different things that, like, what I'm saying, that, like, CTA and law enforcement, things like that can do. Like, I mean, again, like, I mean, if you have better investigations and things like that happening, where you holding people accountable, then you can like get the people that's like causing problems and harms on the trains, on the subway, on these buses and things like that. But it can't be selective. You can't sit there and pick and choose when and where it's gonna be, or just okay, I'm gonna pick up on this thing this week, but next week I'm gonna do nothing about it. I mean, it's a better way to do it, and we know that they have cameras on buses.
Right.
Last time I was riding buses, you have cameras, so you should be able to like identify these people that's doing these like salacious acts.
Yeah.
You should be able to go after them.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know these things happen on the trains, and they want to say, they want to monitor the trains better, but let's be realistic. There are so many people doing so many things that it's hard to keep track of. But what I like about what they're trying to do is like, look, if you're a repeat offender, you're not allowed back on this train again. If you get on this train again, then you're going to prison. That's just the way it is. It has to be that way for people to understand that this kind of behavior can't continue to be acceptable. Because, as I said before, I don't worry too much about myself, but I worry about that woman that's on that train that has to go to work late at night or early in the morning. That's who I'm more concerned with. I'm not more concerned with myself because it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm a man. I can take care of myself, sink or swim. But for women, and people like the elderly people who are, not able to defend themselves, they need to have that protection there. They need to have that help there. And people who are repeat offenders, whether it be because of mental issues or, which I think most of the time is this case, people just like to do things because they want to do it. And it has nothing to do with mental issues. They just like causing havoc. As I said, one of my classmates was wilding out a couple of months ago. And it was one of them situations where he was really wilding out and he spat at 3 women. And I just really, I had to walk away from that because my first intention was to grab him and then, hey, call the police. But then I got to get involved in the whole thing. It's one of those big things where, I just hated that went down like that. And I don't want to see these acts on these trains or buses. People need to feel safe all the time.
I agree with you, but I will say, what you're saying, like, I mean, like, people don't really have mental issues, but then again, if you think that if that's something that you want to do, just like create and cause chaos and stuff, that is a mental issue. Is that we don't address? I mean, because like you don't want to think of like mental issues as somebody that like that can't tie their own shoes or whatever they have. I mean, things that we can flat out and see that, oh, this is a crazy person. He's, what I'm saying, like, walking outside with his drawers on or whatever. I mean, it's like an emotional address. It's like, why, like for me, I can sit here and say, like, I never felt like I needed to do something on a platform or like on a bus to like somebody else. Most times I get on a bus or a train, I'm just trying to get to where I'm going to. I'm not trying to like create any kind of spectacle or see something happen. And for the people that want to do that stuff, I mean, would think it's funny and stuff like that. Like, why do they think it's funny? Why do you like why would you feel the need to do these things? Like, we did pranks before. I remember doing that when I was younger and stuff with a couple friends and stuff, like where throw something off the platform like a water balloon or something like that. I mean, as a kid, as a teenager, little stupid kiddie teenager pranks that's different. And at the same time, once again, a key word, a teenager, adolescent. My brain wasn't fully developed. And it was to do something stupid to get a laugh out of the people, out of my boys, out of the homies who I was with at the time, who I was around at the time. That's why we did it. But when you say in these cases where people was like, causing harm and discomfort and all that kind of stuff just to be doing it, It's like, what are you missing out of your life to make you even want to think to do such a thing like that? That's where I see it.
I mean, a lot of people
Beyond ridiculous.
A lot of people, Mark, they just feel downtrodden. They feel put upon. All of the issues that they have, and they use that to try to push it off on someone else. It's that old saying, misery loves company. Some people are just miserable. Yes, there are some people who have mental health issues. I understand all that, and I sympathize with all that.
I think a lot of people have it. Like, I mean, to say it, like, I mean, for me, I really believe there's like different, like, you know what I'm saying, like, no degrees of it. I mean, once again, like, you're not at that whole like extreme thing where it's like, oh, I'm about to go and start like just like, you know, shooting a bunch of people, like, you know, randomly at a store. But there are like certain kind of levels that, for like whatever reasons, a lot of reasons we don't address. Or I don't even want to say, like, you know, for like, you know, whatever reasons, a lot of it be like, you know what I'm saying, pride, embarrassment, things like that. Like, we don't want to, like, you know what I'm saying, confess our emotional unstableness. I mean, again, like, there's no reason to be like doing these things and you sitting there acting out, whether you a kid or like a grown up. I mean, there's something that's missing that you need, and like a lot of things that we gotta stop being afraid to admit, you know, are like, you know what I'm saying, downfalls. We gotta sit there and address those things. It's just the same way they used to say, like, you know, the first step is to admit that you have a problem.
Right.
But with all that said, when you are doing things like that, like, yeah, people should get themselves in trouble, should get locked up. Absolutely, they should. They should be banned from off of public transportation, anything like that. If you can't control yourself,
yeah, absolutely.
Then get the help after you get locked up. Hopefully, you get the help.
Absolutely, Mark. It's one of them situations, you know, we're going to continue to talk about on the Grown Man Podcast because, as I said, it does need to be some crackdown on these repeat offenders and people who just out causing havoc because that's what they want to do. Another thing I want to talk about, Mark, is the city issues and bureaucratic nonsense. And when I speak on that, I'm speaking from experience because there are several times where, you know, you put in your report, you go to 311, you put in your report, and you're looking for an issue to be resolved. And yet still, they'll put on there, oh, issue resolved, nothing here to see. And you continue to go through this stuff and you make the calls and you do all this stuff and you got to go through all this bureaucracy because these people don't want to do their jobs. And yet if someone gets hurt or injured because they didn't do their job, then everybody's in outrage. Once again, it's one of these situations that can be handled easily. And it's on my end, I like to speak about it because when cars are parked illegally, right? If they're parked in alleys, or tow zones, or they're blocking someone in, and you make a report and you take pictures of the license plate. This is the car that does it. And the vehicle continues to do it. And I've been seeing that all over the city. It's the same thing. And they talking about how they want to chase revenue to close a budget. Well, here you are right here. Write these people tickets. There've been so many reports of people's driveways being blocked, where people are inconsiderate and just parking anywhere they want to. They're parking in alleys, blocking people from getting out of their garages. So it's one of those things where we see this happening all the time. And I'm quite sure it happens where you are too. Or there are cases where the city is just not paying attention to these things. And then when the issue comes up, someone, you know, shoots somebody because of this situation, then everybody's in an uproar. It didn't have to go that far. Sometimes it does if the city doesn't get involved. But what do you say?
I mean, well, that's the whole thing. I mean, if you're not addressing these like issues and situations and stuff like that, I mean, it's just like I've seen this at jobs before. Like, you know, I had a job with these, like, you know what I'm saying, like, no supervisors who didn't want to get involved in anything, like any kind of messy situation. Like, if you was to go to them and be like, you know what, I got a problem with, like, you know what I'm saying, no, so-and-so because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And like, okay, they gonna sit there and like, you know, hear you out, okay, let you vent, then just like, okay, that's it. Just try like sweeping them underneath the rug.
Yeah.
Until something happens, until somebody get into a fight, or until somebody, like, you know what I'm saying, does something that's gonna, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, damage anything of the property or equipment or whatever the case like that. Like, basically, they wait till the big thing to happen,
Right.
and then they want to address it. Then people got, like, lose jobs and all that kind of stuff like that. It's like you have to address these things in real time right away. And this sounds like a situation where it's like bad policing. I mean, if somebody's reporting somebody about, like, a drive-through blockage and things like that, like, yeah, you should be able to call the police. It could be the non-emergency number.
That's what 311 is.
It don't exactly have to be a 911 situation. Yeah, just like
that's what 311 is for. And people report things,
non-emergency,
and yet nothing is done about these things. It's like an issue. Like I said, my job, of course, particularly, there was an issue with trash being piled up, and they knew that this was a dumping zone for other people. And we're talking about the heart of downtown Chicago, and yet, once again, it was the previous day of yesterday, and I believe it was last week, where someone came past and set that stuff on fire. And yesterday it was on fire again. How many times do you have to report something to the city before they actually do anything? Someone can get hurt, but then everybody's going to be in an uproar. They want to hunt down the person who did it, when the person that did it the first time is the same person who done it the second time, and they're not being apprehended. That's the problem that I have with this bureaucracy, because you're going through red tape, and sometimes they process these guys and then they send them right back out. So what is the point here? What are we doing here in our cities? What are we doing? You know, people are calling in for these violations and no one is responding. But yet still, when it's time for these people to be elected back to office, they are the first ones sending those flyers or ringing your bell. Do your jobs, people. Do your jobs. If someone makes a legitimate report to 311, follow it through to the end. If someone says that someone is parking illegally and they continue to do the same thing, are you going to do anything about it? It's like the garbage trucks can't even get through the alley to pick up the garbage because you've got people illegally parking in the alley.
Yeah, and that's part of our job too. Like you just sit there and say, like, I mean, you know, these people want to get, like, you know, reelected and all that kind of stuff. That is an issue that needs to be pointed out and put out there, and that's our job, you know, as, like, you know, constituents and, like, citizens and taxpayers. Like, we pay taxes, all that kind of stuff, you know, most of us. That's where, like, we have to take the role of being involved politically about things, about issues just like this. That's why I like, I was listening to some of Kamala Harris speech when she was at the I can't think of the name of it, but she was at the event.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name.
Yeah, I can't think of the name.
But I did see some of her speech though.
But yeah, but basically it's a event that's, like, you know what I'm saying, like, a lot of, like, you know what I'm saying, black politicians and organizations, NAACP, all that kind of stuff. She was speaking at this event, and one thing that she was saying was that, like, yeah, you should demand stuff for your vote, and that's what we have to do in a situation, like, you know what I'm saying, demand these changes and get involved. You got to get involved with the political process, and it's not just about, like, yeah, voting ain't the end of it. And once you vote, okay, I'm done. I mean, like, go ahead. No, you got to stay involved, and you got to hold these people, these politicians, these police, everybody accountable for not doing their job, and that's part of our job, to report these things happening. And then it's like, when we're not seeing anything happen, find out why.
Right.
Why there's nothing happening.
Right.
Like, you know, you got to make that push. You got to, like, you know, organize with your community and be like, hey, man, this is something that needs to stop, because that is a safety issue. That's a lot of things. The garbage man, like you said, garbage trucks got to get through there to do their job. You know what I'm saying? You got like other people that need to get through to like be able to park in their driveways, in their garages, like just get by and stuff. Alleyways are not open parking spaces for everybody, and everybody realizes that, and they got to get called out on it. And I mean, yeah, there are cases where okay, you got your car parked there for a little while because you moving or you trying to do this and that and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you should have some damn respectability and stuff like that, not to block anyone's driveway or hey man, I'm about to park this here for let's say for a couple minutes because I got to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, this stuff shouldn't be as complicated as we make it out to be. But until we start holding people accountable for things and keep the pressure on it, things are never going to change.
Yep. You said a mouthful, Mark. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because you have to hold people accountable. And that's why I said when it's time for the vote, there are a lot of people who are going to be looking for people to vote for them, and they're not going to get those votes because you're not doing the job that we voted for you to do in the first place, and that is to look after your constituents. Final topic we want to talk about this week, Mark, is a story that came up recently, and I wanted to address this because it ends on a high note, and it's something that we need right now in these current times. And there is the NBA player Kevin Porter Jr. and Jamal Crawford, you remember, played for the Chicago Bulls. So Jamal Crawford, apparently he was mentoring this young man, Kevin Porter Jr. His father ended up in prison for murder, but then he ended up getting killed as well later when he got out. He was in prison for the murder of a 14-year-old, but at the time it was something where the case, they didn't have the proper evidence. But he was 19 years old back in 93, and I can commiserate with that because I was right in that age range. Of course, I was 20 then, depending on, what time of year it was. But he was charged with first-degree murder in the fatal shooting of a 14-year-old girl. And that was Kevin Porter Sr. So, when he got out, which they let him go because it wasn't proper evidence, but he ended up losing his life in 2004 when he was trying to break up a fight in a bar and someone just shot up the bar, and unfortunately he lost his life. But back to the story, Jamal Crawford, stepped in because that was a friend of his. They went to high school together, and it was a friend of his. So when he saw that Junior was going down the path, he basically said he was young, man, and he didn't have a father. And, helping him navigate, through high school and through college. And he's had a couple of ups and downs, a couple of things where, he had, I think him and his girlfriend got into some stuff or whatever the case. But he doesn't make excuses for it. It's just that he didn't know how to, navigate life without that father figure. And even so, playing in the NBA today, it's still kind of hard for him. But with Jamal Crawford there, it's kind of like his mentor. It allowed him to get on a more smoother path, and his game is improved. I think he played for the Milwaukee Bucks, and he was averaging 19.2 points, 5.3 rebounds. He had 5.7 assists. So he was playing and having a pretty good season, but it turned the corner for him, when he realized that some of the people that he was surrounding himself with was going to get him in trouble. And Jamal Crawford stepped in and say, hey, man, the reason why he's having the issues that he's having, it's not because he's a bad kid, because there wasn't a father in the house. There was nobody to tell him, okay, this is right and this is wrong as a man. A mother can only do so much, and you need a father. And, Jamal Crawford stepped in and became that father figure for him. And he's doing pretty good for himself. Hopefully he stays on the straight and narrow path. But I brought this story up, Mark, to just address that this is what we need in our communities and in our neighborhoods. We need more stories like this instead of the stories that go the other way. Because as I said before, myself, my generation, we have to take a lot of flack. We have to take a lot of responsibility for what is happening today because we were not the fathers to our children as we should have been. And that's why we see this generation being in the situation that is in, because we allow this generation to grow up, and a lot of them have children, and now their children are now growing up in the environment that was not built for us. It was not where we are supposed to be. We're supposed to be bigger and better than this. But unfortunately, in our communities, we've lost the way and we don't have enough mentors. We just have a lot of followers. But what do you say?
Well, man, I say this. I mean, more importantly, I think you say, yeah, you want to see more like, things like this happening. I would like to see, because I believe there are like a lot of good mentor stories and all this stuff like happening. I like to see it more highlighted. We don't highlight enough of the joy.
Yes.
Enough good things, the positive things, because we focus on the negative, and like the negative is more sexy, right? And it's always like the drama and stuff. We like the drama. We like to talk about things, laugh about things, all that stuff. But we forget the importance of communities. And like you talk about Jamal Crawford, who was a fairly successful NBA player for a number of years. I believe he played like at least about 12 or 13 seasons. So without having this personal bio in front of me, a lot of
injuries. A lot of injuries, kept him from.
A lot of injuries. Yeah, but still, nevertheless, he was a talented guy. I know that he was Sixth Man of the Year like a couple times. And all that
he dropped 50 a couple of times when he was with the Bulls. So
yeah. And I bring that up to say, like, what I'm saying, most guys, that we see, or at least that are being highlighted, what I'm saying, like going to like, become like broadcasters or get in some kind of business venture or like do things like, for themselves and all that kind of stuff to make more money and all that good stuff. Don't really hear too much about them doing stuff for like kids or giving back in this type of way. Because you hear about like the charity act or whatever, like, yeah, NBA cares, and they show the guys doing like the photo ops or going and visiting a hospital or do the Make-A-Wish thing, for a kid that's about to die and all that kind of good stuff. Not taking anything away like from those too much, only to say like a lot of that stuff be like performative with what Jamal Crawford is doing. This is something that's real and that's from the heart. And it takes a lot of character and a lot of actually generally caring about people to be empathetic. And the way I see society or the path that we've been going on for like a long time that has hurt us, not just in the Black community, but I'm talking about every community. I'm talking about the whole world, if you will. It's the fact that we lean too much on like this, like, do for self mentality, not have compassion, not be compassionate towards people in situations. If it's not me, why do I care? All of that stuff. And that hurts the community because, when you're trying to build community and build because we know that we're not going to be around forever. Everybody's going to die at some point.
Right.
Like I said, you try to prolong that as long as you can, but meaning that somebody else got to come up and take over if you are interested in the world going on and, life continuing on, like if you have kids and grandbabies and things like that, or even if you don't, like just having like society and like humanity. So, at some point you need more people to give back and to do better, especially once you learn to do better, right? You want to like share that knowledge and you want to help other people come up and not see them just go down a dark path or go down the wrong path. If you got the ability to prevent that from happening, you absolutely should. So that is a beautiful story to hear about. And I think it needs to be highlighted more on social media. Like I said, you go on social media, like we talked about before, you see all kind of goofy, nonsensical, stupid things like this doesn't get enough attention, but it takes a community to highlight and shine and share more light on these situations so they do get more attention. So people can see more of it and to think about doing things more differently.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you just said, Mark. This is one of those heartwarming stories that I like to end the podcast on because it's very important to our communities more now than ever, right? That we have mentors and that this stuff, like you said before, is not put on some back page where you have to search for it or you have to just come across it randomly, because this is a story I would have known nothing about because, as you said, it's not reported in mainstream media. We need more of these stories that uplift so it can give these kids in these communities hope. Even if their father is not there, they'll be all right because somebody will be there.
Absolutely.
Well, we glad that you came in to listen to us talk about a lot of different topics here on the Grown Men Podcast, as we will continue to do in the future. We bring you the best that we can, advice, opinions, whatever you want to hear on the Grown Man Podcast, you're going to get it because that's what we do here. Mark, glad to have you back on the Grown Man Podcast, giving your insights to what's going on these topics in the world today.
It's always good to join you. I mean, again, we just two grown men. It's just like, putting things out there. So it may not be for everybody, but it can be for somebody. So definitely check us out. Visit WeRiseNation.com. Look for us on like YouTube. You can put in Grown Man Podcast and see what pops up. Look for us on Spotify and every other platform that you may be entangled with one way or another, but we're not going to give you a whole lot of social media goofiness and nonsense. That's not what we're about.
No,
everybody, try to do better. Stay blessed.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm BAN, and we will talk to you soon.
The grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud.